Hello and welcome to Unexplained Possibilities podcast. I'm your host, Melvin the Crimson Taurus, and unfortunately, Rose can't be here today because she is stuck at work. And you know something? She's really upset about it. This is one show that she really didn't want to miss because not only are we going over the alien topic, but also because we have someone who is a contactee and beyond as a guest. Of course, I'm speaking of the founder of Create Disclosure, Chela Cooley. Chela, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Really happy to be here, Melvin.
We're happy to have you on. I've been trying to get people on in regards to the alien topic for a very long time. All of them turned me down. You're the first person to say yes. I can only assume people said no because they're afraid of the ridicule and feedback they may or may not receive.
Yes, absolutely. To be able to talk about a contact experience takes a lot of courage, and you really need a support network behind you to be able to talk about the topic in the first place. So it takes a lot, and thankfully I'm in a good position in my life, and I have very supportive people around me, so I'm able to do it. But unfortunately, for others, sometimes it takes a lot more than that.
You openly discuss this topic on your YouTube channel and, of course, across different social media, Facebook, Twitter. And I think it's really cool that you're open to do that, you know. So well, you just actually said you're in a good place, and yeah, so I don't need I say more, but
it definitely took a lot to get to this point. I had to basically take a lot of things out of my life and revise and renew and reinvent myself as I came to terms with what had happened to me. It took a lot of healing and self-worth that's building and growing over time, but it is a constant process of basically strengthening who you are to be able to talk about this in the first place, because it does invite a lot of unwelcome energies and a lot of negativity. So you have to be very strong-willed, and thankfully I've been building that, and it's taken me about 10 years, this ride, to get to this point to be able to talk about it publicly.
Oh, hey, you got there. Somewhat of an uphill battle, but you're there now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will just continue to grow from here. Once somebody is committed to sharing and speaking about the truth, they just, kind of put all of those obstacles aside and just push through it, and the result is good. But in the beginning, it's kind of awkward.
Okay. Now, what would you say to those who have interactions with beings from not this planet, but elsewhere, and they want to speak out about it, but they're afraid to do so?
First of all, I want them to know that I understand what it feels like to be afraid of experiencing something that is considered outside of the norm, something that is unexplained, something that is ridiculed and feared. So, there's a valid reason why you're afraid. But the thing is that the only thing that's holding you back is yourself in this circumstance, because those things are real. These limitations are out there, but we can choose to push past that as individuals, and it takes a lot of strength and resolve to push past that, but you're not alone, and that's the number one thing to realize, that you're not alone in this experience, and if you choose to speak about it, you can, and there will be someone that can hear you, that will care about you and your experience. You will find that person. You may have to go through quite a few people. You may be disappointed with some of the results, but they are out there, and they are ready. There are people who are ready to listen. And that should be reassuring to everyone, just to know that there are some obstacles, but at least there are people out there who really do care and want to hear this information. Yeah.
So I think that's something a lot of people need to hear, because I'm sure it's many people who are being visited and have their own little experiences, but they just don't know, like, should they say anything? Should they not? I mean, who's going to believe them? But yeah, that's great advice you gave, and I like that. You could actually apply that to a lot of things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Even just whatever is going on in your personal life and interests that you feel, you might be ridiculed or rejected because you're doing something so different. Whenever you experience something so outside of the norm, people are afraid of the unknown. So you're going to encounter that no matter what. It's just the question of, will you allow yourself to experience that? And will you allow yourself to have that direct relationship with that experience for yourself? That's the question. Because we all have that choice. It's just a question of, will we actually defend that choice? Will we decide to embrace that possibility? I see every contact experience as a possibility to learn about something that is not recognized or known by basically the majority of people on the planet. And that's something exciting for everybody, I think, to learn about something completely new. And I would say be excited about it. Even if you were a bit scared or you didn't have some of the best experiences, if you come in with the positivity and with a refreshing mindset, you will see that contact experience gave you a lot of understanding about yourself and about what exists.
Speaking of experiences, let's get into yours a little bit here. When you were very young, and I know you said that it's hard for you to recall the exact age due to a lot of events, but when you were very young, you were visited by a reptilian. And that, I believe you said in your video, was one of your first experiences that you recall anyway. What's the story behind that? How did that go?
Well, I was contacted by the same reptilian for most of my life. And like I said before, I'm not entirely sure at what age it started. I'm pretty sure it started very young, but I don't have any memory of that exactly. It started becoming very obvious to me, though, when I was around 6 and 7 years old. And that's when I started coming to terms that something was actually happening to me because of physical symptoms or certain things that were very obviously strange that were happening around my environment, that were happening to my body, that was happening to my mindset. There were all of these changes, and it was totally different from anybody else who I knew as a child around that time. Their experience was so completely different from mine. So it really started to shake me and rattle me and get me to understand that what I was seeing was not a part of my imagination. And then it got to the point where I started pushing myself to become as coherent as possible when I was having a contact experience. And then I realized I wasn't imagining it because I could actually feel the physical sensation of the reptilian touching me. And then that was when I had my first validation. I was probably 6 years old when I became coherent and aware of the fact that a reptilian being was contacting me and was also having physical contact with me. So that's when it all started.
When anyone in this field, whenever they mention reptilians, a lot of people immediately think of something negative, unfortunately, and that's due to a lot of misconceptions and misinformation. And yeah, reptilians have a bad rap. But what are some of the misconceptions of reptilians that you'd like to straighten out?
There's so many, but let's just go with the basics. Essentially, people believe that reptilians are demons or devils, and that is so far from the truth. That is something that was created in the past to create a superstition and get people to fear reptilians, because reptilians have always been living with us. They have always been a part of our environment. They have always been a part of our society. And this legend or this myth was spread that reptilians are the demons and devils because religion wanted to force this mindset to separate people from having contact experiences or becoming aware or curious about that, because they wanted to sell a certain rhetoric. So that's the origin of where this whole misconception about reptilians and fear comes from. It's very deep-seated in our history, and it's been passed down through generations, through certain images, through certain stories, through certain religious stories and expressions and things like that. And another thing that people like to say is that reptilians eat people. And that is not true at all. They like to sensationalize things to create fear and panic because it's sort of like a Hollywood mindset. You know, people kind of crave for an alien contact to be something aggressive and traumatic because of what Hollywood has shown them. So they superimpose that and kind of generalize everything in that way.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Would you say it's intentional?
You mean the misunderstanding that's being spread about reptilians?
Yeah, of reptilians being some god-awful thing that wants to eat everyone. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Because there is a certain mindset behind that where certain people are benefiting from others, from the majority of humanity, not knowing about the existence of alien beings in general. So it could be about anything, essentially. Any kind of alien being, but in particular they want to focus on reptilians because reptilians are the ones that are the closest to us physically, and at any moment of time, any single one of us can have a contact experience with reptilians, so of course they want to keep control over that and make sure that people don't get the information in the first place.
Now, you know, this actually reminds me of a person who said he had contact with reptilians. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but his name is David Eckhart. And he did an interview with my my friend Alien Photog a long time back now. And he was saying that reptilians would show up to his home every now and then, and they would take him somewhere. He's kind of foggy where, but he remembered the conversation that they were having, and they saw his microwave, and they were like, "Oh wow, they have microwaves, man! So do we!" and stuff. I thought that was so funny. What I'm getting at is David Eckhart. He never said that they were like thirsty for blood or they wanted to rip his lungs out or anything like that, and they were pretty well organized, and they were intimidating because of their size.
Of course.
And very straightforward and like just get her done. But other than that, he never said that they were trying to eat him. They were trying to like hurt him in any way or anything like that. So real cool interview, you guys, that you should check out on Alien Photog. It's in the archive somewhere.
Well, that kind of sums up their personality in a way. You know how you just said that they're very direct and they're get it done? Well, they are like that because they actually, as their culture, they have a very military culture, but in a very positive way. Basically, they're defenders of nature. That's really what reptilians do. They keep planets clean. They protect animals. That's sort of what their main interest is. They like to make sure through very advanced technological developments that all of nature is functioning and the health of the planet is secure. So that's also why they're very organized, because they all work as a collective unit to make sure that everything in the environment is clean. So, of course, right now, I'm sure you realize that reptilians are pretty agitated that our environment on this planet is not clean, and they are a part of that right now, and they can't really do much with that. But in that circumstance, they're definitely agitated. I will say that. So when there's massive pollution going on, I'm sure that would raise their hackles quite a lot.
Okay, that's understandable.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this reptilian who would visit you when you were a child and into your adulthood and stuff, did you ever find out what he wanted? I'm assuming it's a he, right?
It's a he, yeah.
Okay.
Well, he was interested in me for romantic reasons, and also he wanted to procreate. So that was the biggest reason, actually, why. And we actually do have children together, and in a way it actually turned out for the best, and I'm really happy that we do have children together. In the beginning, he was not so positive. with his intentions, but, the result actually ended up being really good. So it worked out for the best.
Okay, good. You said you have children together, and they're a hybrid, I guess you would say, for lack of a better word.
Yes, they are hybrid.
Which means that intergalactic, interspecies... Well, I won't say galactic, because according to you, reptilians are from this planet originally first, correct?
Yes, well, they were the first ones that inhabited this planet, but they originate from a constellation called Serpens, and it's a very large place in this universe. They actually constitute a big majority of what's out there in this universe. They're a huge group.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Humans and reptilians, they're a big part of what's, off-planet, basically. We're a big majority, actually.
Interspecies, intergalactic breeding, I guess, for lack of a better word, it is possible.
Yes.
And you know what? You're not the first person who's told me that they've had hybrid children. Another person is AP, yet again, my friend, and I met another person, we'll just call her Erin for right now, and so on and so forth. But one of the problems is they're not really allowed to see their kids. Are you allowed to see yours, or no?
No, unfortunately they are off-planet, and that's because of disclosure being blocked for humanity. So if I were able to see my children, it would not ever happen on this planet until global ET UFO disclosure would be confirmed. Then after that, it would be possible for me to reunite with them. That's also why I'm really motivated for Create Disclosure, because this is something that is very psychologically distressing for parents of hybrid children, and there's very many hybrid parents that are out there that are not able to basically have closure and to have the connection that's deep in their heart and their soul and their being. When you have a child and you're not able to interact with your child, that is distressing on your existence itself. So it's something that matters to all of us, because if one person of our human family is suffering in this way and feeling such sadness, even if they're not conscious of it or aware of it, it's certainly there, because it's a separation that's happening. It's like a displacement that's been happening for a very long time, and it continually brings us down. So if even just a couple of us were able to reunite with our hybrid children, the effect that it would have would be astronomical for everybody else, because when one person feels better, then you feel better. We're all connected, and that's a big, huge advantage that humanity can have. And not only that, it creates so many opportunities for us to explore new possibilities and figure out about things that are exciting and new.
That's something that would be really cool. And I mean, you're so passionate about disclosure and making it happen. Like, it's at this point, I am now a firm believer that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And I think you're going to be a large part of that.
All it takes is the cumulative effect. So as long as an individual decides that they want disclosure just to figure out for themselves how they feel about it, it's not about even what I'm talking about, what I'm passionate about. It should be everyone's passion, because if we allow disclosure to happen, if we all crave for it to happen, we all crave for the truth to be revealed in general. And that applies to every single one of us. And that's a very powerful thing, because once you have the truth, then your mind can relax, your entire being can relax. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I see this as being the most beneficial, the most important thing for each and every one of us to experience. Because once you know, then you can decide what you want to do, how you want to think, how you want to be. But as long as we're kept in the dark, then none of us can have this resolution. We will always be under a very strong amount of stress, and we don't know why. And that no matter what we do in terms of our daily activities and what we're doing with our life, this underlying stress and trauma will always be there. And it's something that needs to be resolved in the collective human consciousness. So that's why I want to invite everyone into this movement because I believe that it's really good for all of us.
Believe you. I mean, it's a lot of stress in the world. I'm under it. You're probably under it. Everyone is at some point in their life. So if this is a way to help get rid of it and move us forward as not necessarily individuals in this case, but just as a group of people just united and to help better life in general for everyone, then I'm all for it.
As a collective human species, even, I would say. The species needs to have cohesion. We need to have connection. And right now, human-to-human relationship and interaction is very hard to maintain because of this underlying trauma that I'm talking about. Because fundamentally, when you don't have all of the information about what's going on in your world and your environment, basically it makes everybody slightly paranoid and distrustful of one another, right?
So we all turn into Alex Jones.
Well, that's the thing, basically then you're under high stress to reveal, and you don't know what it is that you're trying to get out into the open, and you may even do some things that you regret because you don't even know where these feelings are coming from. That's the issue. This is fundamentally healing for all of our psychology, even because we have this kind of itch that we all need to scratch, but we don't have the words for it yet, and that's why I'm trying to provide the words and the context, the basis for this understanding, so that when it takes root, when it takes place, everybody can just enjoy it and enjoy life as a collective for the first time, and actually be excited to meet one another and interact human to human. Because right now, people act like that's not that exciting unless it's a celebrity or something. But we should be excited to meet whoever it is. We should be embracing of that and joyful to have a human-to-human relationship. And in a way, disclosure will help us to appreciate one another that much more.
All right. So, Chela, let me ask you then, because we don't live too far away from each other. Would you be happy to meet me?
Of course I
would. Right on, man. But this is actually doable. Perhaps one day in the future, and we'll do a live show or something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, now, I'm wondering if part of your compassion and your ability to your ability to just want to help everyone and move on is because of something you claim to be or have. I'm not sure, because I was, again, watching one of your videos, and I've never heard of this before, so you're going to have to educate me on it. But you spoke about having a crystalline essence? What is that?
Yes.
A crystalline. Okay. Yes. What is it? Crystalline?
Crystalline.
Crystalline essence. Yes. What is that?
So basically, each and every one of us, we all have certain, unique abilities or mindsets. Each one of us is so different from one another, right? As human beings, we all don't think the same. We don't act the same. We don't like the same foods. We don't like the same activities. There's a reason for that. And what that reason is because of the DNA imprints. So as humans here on this planet, we are incredibly unique in this entire universe, meaning we have the variety of expression of creation inside of our body right now. So essentially, what I mean by crystalline is when I was a child, I had the DNA imprint, or let's say the energetic codes and information that comes from anything that is a crystal. So I was able to have an understanding of crystal beings and connect with them psychologically, just naturally, because it was a part of who I am. It was influencing the way I look. It was influencing the way I express myself, the way I talk. And each one of us has something completely unique from one another, and these are the DNA imprints. And as human beings, we have 90 of them on this planet, which is unheard of anywhere else in this universe. So that's why also alien beings are very interested in us, because we have such variety of expression that, say you and I talking right now, Melvin, we can dynamically adapt to one another in the conversation because we both have 90 DNA. So we can, maneuver and communicate in ways that other species would have more difficulty doing because they are only specialists of what they are. So say a reptilian is not going to have such an easy time to communicate with a mermaid because the mindset is so fixated on exactly what they do and what they care about that it's a bit more difficult for them to kind of breach that communication barrier. So that's why we have the 90 DNA imprints, so that we can cross over the information and interact with one another, learn and create all of these infinite possibilities. So you with your 90 DNA imprints and me with mine can create an abundance of options and creative possibilities that other humans off planet that have less DNA, they're not necessarily maybe even thinking about those options like we do.
You know what? It almost sounds like multitasking.
Absolutely it is. It's like DNA multitasking, of course, and very dynamic communication, I would say. It also is that there's a lot of expression that can happen, and you can learn a new skill set as quickly as you would like, but another species maybe doesn't have that ability so easily because they are so specialized. Unlike us, we can constantly change our taste and our interest at the drop of a hat, right? And other beings, it's a lot more complicated for them to just have a complete shift and change. So, sometimes, say you have a friend and they just all of a sudden wake up and they want to do something completely different than they've ever done in their life. That's because their DNA is expressing themselves and changing and activating, so they're experiencing that new part of themselves that's a part of their body.
Yeah, that sounds like Rose. At the drop of the hat, she'll just I want to do this. So, okay.
That's a sign of the DNA being activated, by the way. The challenge is being accepted.
I must remember that. That's pretty good information to know.
But there are also many other signs, too.
Okay.
Just want to let you know that. Yeah, that it's not just that. It's not that you always have to change. It's just that could be a sign of that.
This might be a stupid question. I know it's a stupid question, and you can curse me out if you want later, but, does that apply to, when people get a little horny, just out the blue?
It could, because it's the DNA maybe changing and shifting in a different sense, or maybe somebody's attracted to a different kind of person that, in the past maybe they weren't really interested in. That could be the DNA coming online. And that would be situated mostly with the sacral chakra and the sacral DNA imprint when it has to do with sexuality. Then that's actually a very strong DNA imprint in humans. Unfortunately, it should be the root, which is the basis of all of what you are. But since we live in a very sexualized culture, basically it's a global culture now that's like that because of all the advertising. That's kind of how the DNA starts to come online, and that can unfortunately create some DNA dominance issues for some people when they're too let's say, hyped up with their sexuality. That means that they're only really using that part of their DNA, and that can create some problems.
So nymphomaniacs.
Yeah, well, that can create some problems, right? Because they're activating just whatever is in the sacral DNA imprint, but say they're forgetting about the heart or the mind or, the brow chakra, which is a part of the mind, or the throat chakra, so maybe they're not so good about expressing themselves after a while, because everything requires balance. That's just a basic universal principle of existence, right? So that's something that I learned off planet, is how to diagnose what the DNA imprints are, how to see the 90 DNA imprints, and how do you stabilize that and make sure that it's balanced, because somebody could be more interested in, activating the sacral. That's okay, but just make sure that you don't forget about the rest.
Okay, and you just mentioned off planet, and I'm so happy you did. Because you've said you've been off planet in several of your videos, And when I heard that, I'll admit, I was a bit skeptical. I'm sure a lot of people are like, come on, really? Really? But you're such a sincere and humble person, and you don't strike me as the type who's just gonna make something up and pull the strings over someone's head or something like that. So I believe you've been off planet 100% now. But how did that come about?
That was a very crazy circumstance, and that's why I think it's very uncommon for people to go off planet, because what you would have to go through in order to go off planet, at least in my circumstance, was not so nice.
Yeah, because you didn't just go off planet. You went to another planet.
Yes, I was living on a different planet even for a long while, and it was the best experience of my short life so far, and it's the place that I yearn to go back to because I had such a great experience there. I've never felt so alive and happy and connected to who I am, and that's something I really sincerely hope that every single person gets to experience, because it is by far the most unifying experience you can ever have. Just being in space, and some astronauts even talk about that. When you are just in in open space, right, on a space shuttle, the feeling of connection and peace is so deep, it's resonating through your whole being, and you have such an appreciation for just the scope of creation, and even, appreciating the small things in life, and all the things that are a part of what exists become so significant because you have a totally different perspective.
Yeah, I would imagine so, especially with how vast it is. I mean, and then being able to see our little blueberry with whipped cream from another perspective. I mean,
of course,
it's pretty thrilling, and it's like, whoa, the world, or I guess in this case, galaxy, universe, just got a whole lot bigger.
And it gets bigger as you move forward and go farther into the unknown, and the experience that one can have when you are integrating with an alien culture on a different planet is a whole nother level to that.
Yeah, so take us through the story of that. How did this happen?
Well, it's not something I'm very happy to talk about, but I will definitely explain it because it's important to know. Essentially, I was very beaten up that night that I was taken, and I was left for dead. That I don't really want to go into why or how, but essentially it was actually a very negative alien being that was doing that to me. And what happened was I was just laying there at the side of the road, basically down in a canyon, and rolled off the hill. So this being left me there to die, and that actually did not happen. What happened was a UFO beam ship showed up and beamed me off planet. So I asked this alien being that picked me up after a while. He basically brought me back to health. And he said, well, I can't bring you back now. And I was like, that's fine. I can't go back anyways. I just escaped from a very dangerous situation, right? And so he said, okay, then we're going to my planet. And I was like, yeah, let's go. So I was all for it. I didn't want to come back. And we just moved forward. And essentially, he explained to me that in some circumstances when people are left behind, let's say they're very badly wounded, or they're in the middle of nowhere. I was actually on a mountain where I was left in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and so no one would have been able to find me if something did actually happen that was bad. They would not have been able to find me. So in that circumstance, certain alien beings, in this case is Zeta Gray, what they do is they take the bodies and they basically check out what was going on because they want to learn about what's going on with our culture. So they essentially abduct bodies that are lost or gone. So I'm sure that doesn't help with investigators very much, but that's what they do. They actually take the bodies and they do research because they want to find out, what are humans doing to one another, essentially. So that's why I was taken.
Well, you know what? a negative turned into a positive,
Exactly. And all of my contact experiences have been like that. And I know that it actually always does go towards a positive for everyone. It's just a matter of whether or not you're willing to accept it or not.
That is very true, because I can imagine some people are going to be closed-minded and just closed off, and some are just like, I don't want it. Go away. I want nothing to do with this.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the repercussions of, say, your family or people you know and what they might say, how they might treat you, is tremendous. It's not easy to come back and come into your strength like right away. It's a process. And of course, people are going to have fear and panic and distrust because there is absolutely no basis in our outside world, no support network, especially here in the United States, for people to come forward with their experiences. I had to basically network out to the United Kingdom, and thankfully I had some people, a very nice group of people that were willing to help me out with that. But they weren't here in my local area, and so that's kind of the trouble that people have when they have these experiences. They know that they're going to encounter some trouble, so of course they reject it because they don't want to take on all of that stress and all of those issues that they really cannot solve. They have nowhere to go, and that is true. But like I said, there will always be someone who has your back. You know, we always have somebody that we can fundamentally trust, that we know without any doubt, this is my friend, or this is, you know, my spouse or my boyfriend or my girlfriend or whatever it is, or my mom or aunt or uncle, whoever it is that you feel connected to, that you know no matter what, they will accept you and they truly and honestly love you. Those people will listen to you, and they might be scared at first, but eventually they'll catch on. It might take a while, but the point is to be patient and to be calm, and it will all work out.
Well, you know, patience and calmness aren't humanity's strong point, but
it's just something we have to remember how to do, and, you know, figure out how we can do it in a way that works for us, how to be patient and calm. We all have our things that help us feel relaxed, right? Our outlets for expression, or, you know, just basically working out our energy. Some people like to work out. Some people like to write, make music, make movies. Whatever it could be, you know, reading books. It could be anything. That will help. Whatever makes you feel good, you got to do that, because it will help your mind to relax in the moment. And, you know, say you go and you tell somebody about your contact experience, then you're going to have to do something to help you replenish and feel connected to yourself and, you know, feel safe and relaxed. And that's what I did in the beginning, and it really helped me. I like to write, so I just wrote and kind of kept to myself in the beginning. So sometimes this is a good recommendation I can give to people. If you're too afraid to talk right away, that's totally fine. You don't need to go screaming it out to the world like me. Like, hey, I've had a contact experience, because I know how terrible the kickback can be from that. But you can also just write it down, or make music out of it, and get it out. The most important thing is just to get it out of you, and to acknowledge that it happened, and get some healing under your belt, and then build up your strength for later if you have to. Whatever way you want to do it, or go gung-ho and just go full out, you know. No matter what you feel is going to fit to you and your needs the most, I suggest that you do that.
And I do know that a lot of musicians, they've had experiences with contact and things of that nature, and they do sing and write about it. So I'm not so sure about the film industry, only because the studio heads, they usually change everything from its origin and mess, and everything gets blurred. But that's something for another time. Anyway, back to you being on this planet. And this is just my curiosity. This really has nothing to do with anything, just other than I'm curious about it. But what types of things did you do over there?
A lot of learning, actually, and because that's what I wanted to do. Of course, when you're in an alien culture, you want to learn everything about them, because it's all completely new to you. There is no reflection of that in this world, and it becomes very obvious right away just when you see their technology alone, and, you know, how easy it is for them to maintain a very healthy and strong quality of life for all of their species, and how well they treat one another as an entire species is very impressive. So I wanted to learn how they do that, how they treat one another so well, and how they're so supportive of one another and getting so much done at the same time and still fulfilling their own interest. And essentially, I was learning everything that I could from them. I had a lot of time on their computers. Basically, it's like a modified computer for a human like me to use. And they basically just said, whatever you want to learn about the universe, just go for it. And so I went for it. And I spent a lot of time actually just hanging out on the UFO with the Zeta Gray that took me in. And I was learning how to speak alien languages, so my obsession was learning and education. But there were some humans on the planet where I was that were actually from this planet, who were abductees as well. Yeah, there were a couple. And so we would talk and we would connect. Sometimes we'd have little outings, like inner alien human outings, and we would, go for walks, and there would be times where there would be like a singing concert, and everyone would participate in that, and it was sort of like a bonding, unifying thing that we would all do. Or, we would basically just talk about our experiences on this planet. We'd talk to the Zeta Grays about that, and they would gather some information from us about that. So it was a lot of sharing and collaborating with one another, and it was very peaceful and humbling because everyone was so positive and very, very embracing of one another. Whatever it was that we wanted to do, there was always some being or some human that was, basically putting their support behind that, and very encouraging. So nothing seemed weird at all with them. They didn't make a big fuss like, oh, well, you have to all be like this, like herd mentality. They embraced a lot of variety of, what we wanted to do, and they gave us the platform to do that. Some humans, they wanted to, start a garden, so some Zeta Grays helped those humans to build like a nice place for a garden. Whatever our interests were, it was supported. And that was something I was completely fascinated by. And I was asking them, well, how can we bring this to, basically the planet I come from? And then they told me about the obstacles that I would encounter if I ever tried to do that, and how I would have to go about doing that, and, what kind of mindset you need to have in order to do these things. So it was a massive, massive focus on education because I loved it.
We would have, I would have a different experience. People who know me in my personal life know I'm not anti-knowledge, but I'm anti-school in the form of how they teach in the United States, which is just so dumb to me, and it's just so institutionalized, and it doesn't teach to the individual, it teaches to the group, and it's like, you, sit down, fit in, that's it, So, again, that's trailing off to somewhere else, but that is really cool that you learned that, because you did learn universal language, and you speak it every now and then. I try to say, because
hello?
Not hello. Was it hello? Because I'm looking at it. Where is it? Of course, I write it down. I can't find it now. Well, anyway, it was some stuff that you said a few times, and I tried saying it, and it just comes out like blah, blah, blah,
It takes practice, that's for sure, and a different mindset. That's the hard part.
Unfortunately, I don't really have an affinity for languages. I mean, I've been trying to learn French for the last 10 years, and the closest I got was like, bonjour, comment allez-vous? And it sounds horrible. So, but I think that's really cool that you're able to speak that, and you're somewhat teaching it. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, on the down low I am, definitely.
Yeah. Now, would you say that some of the universal language, would you say that some of it has a connection to Latin? Because some of the words in there, it looked like Latin to me.
Yes, it's a mixture of things. And some words sound like they are more of a reflection actually of English, which I found really surprising. So English is sort of derived from this language, as far as I can tell. That's what they told me. And of course, Latin is a big part of that as well, because, English and Latin, the relationship. And then also, actually some Japanese. A little bit of everything, actually. They're even, it just, the reach is basically, if you think about it, a universal language has to have components of every little aspect of what can exist so that all beings can understand it, right? So you kind of have to have little components here and there that all make sense to all beings. So it's a very useful tool that they have off planet. And since I can speak this, essentially, if I were to go off planet right now, I could go anywhere and communicate with any being, and I wouldn't really have a problem. Maybe the only thing that I would have issues with communicating to, where they would respect my mode of communication, would be a dragon, because they're so hardcore into their own language that no human can actually speak, because we don't have the tongue for it. But besides that, the universal language is understood by everyone and everything. Of course, dragons understand it, but they won't respond to you in Almaki, right? So, and most likely the majority of people will never experience a dragon off planet because it's impossible to see them in the void. So, it's very unlikely.
Well, sorry, Rose. She has a super thing for dragons. Like,
well, you can, but, they like to keep to themselves just because of their sheer size alone, which I totally understand.
Yes. Okay. You just mentioned void. What is void?
So when people talk about space, empty space, and sometimes even scientists call it dead space, which I find very insulting. So essentially, once you get past all of the layers of this atmosphere, you break through that final level of, say, like the stratosphere, and then you continue to go ionosphere, all the layers, and then you're into space, right? People call that just space. That's actually a living organism. That is a living consciousness, and it is an elemental, if you can believe it. The entire universe is full of this void. It's a void elemental. It's called a Vikuzni. And we can travel through it because it's a container that can think and move around us. So essentially, when a space shuttle is going into what people believe is space, what they're actually entering into is a conscious being. So that's what void is it's a conscious being. It's the most ancient being that is in existence. It's the first thing that existed, because from the void everything else kind of spun off and was created. So then you have planets, then you have species, you have other elements like light and fire and water. It's all connected to that, and it's supportive of all of creation that's organic. This void is expansive and incredibly intelligent.
That sounds like a lot of energy as well.
Yeah, a lot of energy, and it's infinite. It's a part of the creator.
I'm actually going to blow my head up thinking about this, because now I'm trying to put the pieces like, yeah, I got to stop for right now. I don't need that.
Don't go too far, because you're trying to understand something that's infinite, and it might hurt the head, because we are finite beings, right? Which is a really good advantage for us, because as humans, we get to experience things and have such an intense relationship with our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, and our relationships, that an infinite being will just basically be a little bit more passive, a little bit more relaxed about, but we get the excitement because we're finite. Everything is like action-packed for us, but for, say, like a void elemental, it's slow, and it's more like about the thought and the methodology behind, what's going on, and more about the observation. But we get the experience as a finite being, as a human or whatever species that we are. So I would say, embrace the short lifespans that we have, because it's set up like that for a reason. And it's nothing to feel bad about. It's nothing to be scared about. It's just to be excited that, it's going to be very intense, very exciting all the way through.
Well, I kind of feel like I should be an adrenaline junkie or something now. Because
your life as it is like that. It's just, maybe not to you in a conscious way.
Yeah, I guess not, because I'm a fairly calm person. I just go do-de-do, do-de-do, But then being from Compton, I think I got all the excitement I needed. You know, ducking bullets and mess. I don't need any more excitement.
Well, there you go.
So,
you got it already.
Yes. You know what? I can't believe I forgot to ask this. The planet you were on, can you actually say where it's located or its name, or that has to remain a secret?
No, absolutely. I can share that. Basically, there is a constellation, Zeta Reticulum, or, it's a big place as well. So that's the constellation where the planet is, and the planet's name is Retu-Ban. So that's where I was. And Retu-Ban was probably not the most impressive planet for a human to first go see because it was very blasted with radioactive weapons and stuff like that. So most of the time I was spending underground anyways, and I could only go out at night. But other planets, have a lot more variety of nature, like we have here, and
Earth-like planets.
Water. Huh?
They usually say Earth-like planets.
Yeah, there are a lot of Earth-like planets, actually. This one was definitely not like that. It had a lot of plants, and it seemed like a desert. That's kind of what it was like, and it was very dark or very bright, like in extremes, basically.
Okay, now you know what? You when you said Zeta Reticuli, you kind of like just hit a ping for me because that place was probably first made famous in oh man, I can't remember the day, either the 50s or the 60s with Betty and Barney Hill. The beings that came to see them said that they were from the Zeta Reticuli, and they gave them a star map with the coordinates, how to get over there. I mean, I guess, I don't know if they were expecting us to have the rockets or whatever to get there by now. I don't know, but that's very cool that you mentioned that, and you were actually in that area. Really awesome.
Yeah, I was really happy to be out there, and I never wanted to leave, even though it's definitely nothing like this planet at all.
Well, you know what, though? That might be a good thing, because sometimes we all need a change of scenery.
Yeah, change is good, definitely.
I almost said something dirty, and I caught myself. So I'm keeping that to I'm not saying that. I'm going to move on.
Okay, move on then, please.
Yeah. Your experiences, they're pretty vast. And they're quite different from other people's experiences who speak about things. And I'm just going to call them the Chela adventures. Have your adventures led you to dealing with the government, particularly the U.S. government, which we all know it's just dirty as sin?
Yes. I have been abducted before by the military. So I'm a MyLab and an abductee. I don't know if you know what a MyLab is, but I'm a military abductee as well. And that actually happened more recent in my life when I was living out in Colorado. I was actually fleeing from the Reptilian at the time, trying to basically live my life for myself, which he didn't want me to do.
Not to cut you off, but you just said Colorado. That's so funny. That's where AP is from. That's where another friend is from who dealt with aliens. And another one, Nicole, she's from the... What is up with Colorado?
Okay, yeah, I'm really glad you brought this up because I want to make a shout out to Colorado because I was so impressed by the experiences that people were having in Colorado that I was testing people on the street to see if they knew about, aliens or UFOs. And basically every single one of them that had been living around like Colorado Springs and Boulder all were seeing UFOs every day. And in fact, a bunch of us were just, basically sightseeing at the side of the road nearby Colorado Springs. And we were all watching a UFO together like, oh, it's a nice day to be watching a UFO. That's how relaxed they are about it because the Air Force Base is inviting UFOs in. I don't know what the relationship is to them, but There were some not so nice aliens that were there when I got abducted. Actually, that's where I was abducted, was the Colorado Air Force Base underground. And I knew that because I was living in Colorado at the time, and they brought me back, basically, through some crazy technology. But yeah, that place is definitely active and very hyperactive with alien activity, so much that even people who have no experience with these things, if they were to be in Colorado for a long while, they would have that experience for sure.
Yeah, and you said Boulder. That's where a couple of people had whatever happened to them. And the other place, which was a bed of activity, not necessarily just UFOs, but also more spiritual stuff like ghosts and some demonic things. But
It's a mixture.
Fort Collins, that's a hotbed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't out in Fort Collins, but I would say for some reason the whole land of Colorado is so connected to, I would say, an indigenous mindset, whether or not people are connected to that or not. But the spirit of the land is so connected to the Native Americans still. And the Native Americans, wherever their spirit is like connected to the land, that seems to be a hotbed for activity, I've found in general. Basically, any kind of activity could be negative, could be positive. It's just basically revealing a lot of things. So even Native American reservations, there's a lot of activity around there, a lot of sightings of strange things, through like security cameras on the outside, or also, national parks are a huge hotbed as well. And, a couple years ago, there were a lot of people going missing in the national parks. I don't know if you heard about that. But, essentially there's a lot of activity in places that are remote, that have a certain mindset, or are connected to, let's say a more indigenous or more connected with nature way of thinking. That always attracts that kind of energy a lot more. So say a city will bring in a different kind of alien experience, let's say, but it's very fundamentally different, and it's a little bit harder for people to grasp and really like connect to, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
It's less direct. Yeah, it's less direct.
So there we go. We took a little detour there, but it was an awesome detour. All right, so back to the, what was it called? My Lab?
Yes, My Lab, military abductee.
Military abductee. That is the first time I've ever heard of that one. I'm going to start using that because Stan Romanek is military abductee. But I'm not getting into that story. That's opening a can of worms I want nothing to do with right now.
Right, yeah. This conversation about military abductions is very uncomfortable for sure. But it's important for people to know that for anyone that's really conscious and aware of the fact that they're having contact experiences, people know about that. And sometimes they want to silence you, especially in my case, when I'm very conscious and aware of what's going on with me. They want to intervene and basically have their own story in their own way to kind of make things go, or they want to silence you, right? And so that's another reason why we have to have disclosure, because if any one of us has, a contact experience, it's not so connected to us in the way that we would like to enjoy and experience. There's always some interference that's trying to come in. And as long as the truth is hidden from us, then we cannot have the security in our positive or whatever experiences that we have. That should be fundamentally ours. We should have the right to have our privacy for ourselves. And for, basically we should be able to be safe if something were to happen to us, because who knows? It could happen to anyone. A contact experience could even happen to your grandmother, What's going to happen to her in that circumstance, It's a dangerous thing, the way that society is operating right now. And it's even hurting them to do it this way. I know that sounds a bit weird, but when they go out of their way to intervene, it's not good for them either. And I know that they don't even really want to do that themselves. It's just their job. And that's what we need to understand. That someone else is telling them to do that.
All right, got it. I guess if it is their job, everyone has a boss somewhere.
Right.
You may not like them, though. Although I think you like your boss. So.
Yeah, I do. I like my boss very much.
So
my boss is on Team Awesome. That's what I like to call it.
So there you go, boss. You're doing a great job. Now, other people's experiences, like I was saying earlier, they're somewhat different than yours. And, well, people have different experiences, period. You know, some are similar, some aren't so similar, some could just be very vivid dreams, others could be bad LSD trips. But for the most part, why do you think so many people have different experiences with ETs?
It has a lot to do with your mindset, actually. So, say somebody is fundamentally a very negative person. They will attract a negative alien contact or paranormal experience because it's what their consciousness and their thoughts are attracting to them. So it's very easy to understand and break it down like that. So if you're very focused on trauma and fear and basically like fear worship through the media, and you are only thinking of aliens as being scary or a certain very aggressive type, then you will only really get that because that's what you've set up for yourself as being the door of possibilities. So you label it that way, that's what you're going to get. Or, if you're kind of in between, then you'll get kind of a little bit of both. And if you're curious, then the door is wide open to be possible. And I would suggest that if we lean more towards the curious, I'm not saying everyone should be, oh yes, it's all going to be positive, because I don't know that. I don't know what the state of everyone's mindset is. I'm not going to guarantee that everyone is going to have a positive experience, right? Because I don't know every single person's mindset. But your mindset really does matter. And if you watch a lot of Hollywood movies that show aliens as being very aggressive and violent and scary and terrifying, then you are conditioning yourself in a very harmful way and setting yourself up for a very nasty experience. And even if you don't have a contact experience, it's going to weigh heavy on your mind. And it's sort of like you're creating a schism or like a bipolar mindset inside of yourself, because that's actually a part of your family. Aliens are our direct family. We are related to them through our DNA. So when you have that fear, you're basically rejecting a part of yourself. And then, of course, there's going to be fear and trauma and a bunch of terrible things, right?
Okay. I like to consider myself curiously cautious.
Curious, cautious. That's good. That's how I was too, and it worked out really well for me. So it's a good way to go about it.
Yeah. But it also sounds like, and it's funny because Rose and I we spoke about this, and you're pretty much saying what she said. It sounds like whatever energy you're putting out there, you're gonna get back.
Of course, especially with these guys, with any aliens, because they are so sensitive to your thoughts and emotions. They're all empathic. They're all telepathic. They're all psychic. So, they'll know immediately if you're up to something bad or up to something good, or if you're just really excited. They're going to be like a little curious about you, and you're going to be a little curious about them. And then that's the best way to start a relationship, right? Is like, well, I'm interested, but I don't know how this will go. That's a good way to start.
Sounds like my crush on Aisha Ramirez in like 3rd grade. Well, I mean, it didn't go my way, unfortunately, but that's what it's like, I see you, but I see you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's setting it up for a good neutral ground, regardless, right? And no matter which way it goes, maybe you don't decide that you actually want to be that close to that certain kind of being. Maybe you're leaning more towards another kind. That's okay. They won't be hurt by that. It's all about what works for us, right? Nobody or nothing in terms of alien beings that are positive and a part of creation that's organic would ever try to force themselves on you. So when somebody's having a negative experience where an alien is forcing themselves upon them, then that is already a being that's corrupted, that's a part of something that is sick and unhealthy. Because, humans, we all have our problems too, right? Some people go down that path. So aliens is the same thing. We need to realize that with every single being we encounter, we always have to go through this process of being cautious and evaluating, but also to have that space where we can be compassionate and be open-minded too.
I am going to take what you said to heart. Actually, I think a lot of people are going to take what you said to heart, or who is ever listening, because it makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
One thing, though, you just said inorganic. What is an inorganic?
Inorganic is something that has basically decided it no longer wants to be a part of creation, or it is fundamentally not a part of creation. Let's say it's the underbelly of creation itself. It's not coming from creator. It's basically just trying to copy that, and it's trying to impose itself upon anything that is a part of what's natural and holistic and real. And it's trying to make itself seem like, hey, I'm a real thing, but it's more of just a carbon copy of the real thing, if that makes sense.
So it's like a parasite.
It's a parasite, yeah, but it can take many forms. It can appear human, it can appear like a rock, it can appear like an animal. I've seen it in many different ways, actually.
Huh. Now, I don't want to get too deep into that yet, but a friend of mine was attacked by something like that, but I want to save that discussion for another time.
Yes.
And we'll dive.
It's very complex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to get out the inorganic thing and let people know what that was. Okay, so in regards to people's different experiences, usually the message winds up being the same, and it's what you just said. Don't have fear, grow as a unit. And oftentimes, too, is help the planet. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a really important thing is we have to make that our focus. We have to make humanity our focus, and we have to start caring about ourselves and others again. However that's going to look, however we need to do it, it needs to get done.
Okay, so I find it awesome that the message is usually the same across the board. Whether we take it or not, that's solely up to us.
Exactly. Yeah, it's our responsibility, but, it's like dirty laundry on the floor. It's your responsibility. No one's going to pick it up for you, but eventually you're going to have to clean it and deal with it, right?
Well, you say eventually, but...
Well, if you want to feel comfortable, and feel relaxed and have the good things of life, then you're going to have to deal with it.
Well, you know what, though? This might go back to the 90 DNA you were saying. What if they're comfortable with the dirty laundry around? It's like, it doesn't bother me.
That is also a possibility as well, yes. In rare circumstances, it is like that. But let's say that's actually not necessarily a human thing. It's more so another kind of, alien being that I don't want to get into right now. But there are certain alien beings that thrive in very dirty environments. And in fact, if they're in a clean space, they will feel sick. So they bring in the trash, but they're great gardeners, though. Yeah.
Well, how does that work?
Well, because they understand recycling and how to use trash and what's the benefit of that. Yes.
Well, you know what?
Well, I guess I should just tell you. I'm just going to put it out there. I know this is going to sound crazy to everyone, but zombies are actually a species, and that's what they like to do. They like dirty stuff. They don't like to eat people. They just like to eat garbage and soil.
Would they technically be zombies then? I mean, that usually when we say zombies, it's like the living dead. And
no, they're not. They're not living dead. They're living decay.
Living decay. Okay, so we have to get rid of the...
Scary zombie thing is not real. It's actually, zombies are really necessary for the planet because they eat garbage and trash that we cannot recycle. So there are some zombies, actually. I don't really want to say exactly where because I don't want to put them in danger, but essentially it's in Asia. I'll just generalize. And there are some cases where people know about them, and the culture of those people are supporting them because they know that they are cleaning all of the waste and garbage. So, when car batteries are being dumped from hybrid cars and in different countries, these zombies are basically eating them and taking that out of our environment so it's clean again. But they have no interest to eat people and bring them down like hunting prey. That's not something that they're interested in. They clearly are focused on the environment. That's why they're into gardening, because they understand the soil in a way that humans can't.
Well, Chela, you just blew my mind yet again.
Well, there you go. A lot of things in Hollywood are meant to keep us as separated from all of our helpers as possible. And that's the thing is, I realize the majority of the things that are very mainstream is actually the opposite, the complete polar opposite from the reality of what it is. So, like you said with school, it's always the opposite of what they say. With movies and Hollywood, it's always the opposite of what they show. Music is probably the only thing that's kind of more honest for the most part, except for mainstream. Some mainstream is not really, obviously. But, at least music, there's something that's more fundamentally human involved. And it's not something that, that's why musicians are so attacked and controlled, I think, because they represent something that's more addressing the human values.
And it's funny you say what you did about Hollywood images in the movies and stuff like that, because Rose and I, when we were talking about voodoo, I mentioned that how Hollywood has zombies is not correct, and in voodoo, the zombies aren't really a part of voodoo. It doesn't work that way with film, and they always say, "Oh, it's voodoo, so zombies, voodoo's evil, devil worship." It's like, what? They don't exactly have a devil in voodoo. They have a creator, bon Dieu, really devil worshipping. Where did that come from? And they have ancestor spirits. But anyway, yes, I agree with you 150%.
Yeah, I know it's probably really shocking for people to hear that because we've seen zombies and scary zombies for years and years and years.
And then The Walking Dead is very popular right now.
Yeah, but in actuality, it's really incorrect. And I wish that they would just show zombies as they are, as very slow-moving, gardeners, basically. Like, they're very slow and monotone when they're talking. Hi, how are you? That they are very obvious, actually. I actually had one say, "Have a nice day, sir." It was really funny. In Santa Cruz, it was very obvious that he was a zombie, and he knew that I knew he was a zombie, but it's impossible not to feel excited about that. It really is.
Wow. Well, there you have it.
But they're friends of this planet, and they're actually our friends, too, because they're taking care of stuff that we don't even know how to handle with all of the toxicity in the environment. We got a lot of help that's out there. It's just that we have to stop demonizing and fearing what we don't know. We have to start embracing, what is that possibility? And it can actually be something good, and the thing is that people are so afraid to have a positive mindset that it's almost considered to be a revolutionary thing to be positive towards any species or anything in nature, and we have to get away from that. We have to start embracing the unknown and being curious about it, like in a true scientific way, like of exploration and discovery, right? That's what science is supposed to be about, is that excitement of discovering something new and how do things actually work in creation and, what's a part of the organic process of life. People separate.
At the same time, they're kind of paranoid themselves because oftentimes they try to disprove something is real before proving it's real. It's so weird. So, okay. Now, here's one for you. And you may have gotten this question before. We have a lot of people from other planets coming here for whatever reason. I don't know their reasoning. Perhaps you might. Why do they come here?
Well, oddly enough, they really care about us, even though we probably would not treat them as well as they would treat us, and that's for sure, and that has been the historical, incidents of how humans have treated aliens, right? They pull their guns, they try to attack and maim, but in actuality, the reason why they're here is because they've realized, okay, your planet is sick, and your society is really struggling, and, it would do you a lot of good to get to know me so that you can make your situation better, because they see us as their family, like I said, because we have a part of their DNA. Like, so there's 90 DNA that we have, right? So the chances of that alien being that's trying to connect with us being connected to our DNA and our whole entire physical and psychological makeup, we're connected to them. And they know that. They know that better than we do. So they come to us because they feel that they can help us as our family. And they come out of mostly benevolent reasons. So that's their intention, is they want to help us out. They want us to connect with them and realize, hey, this is actually real, and we're here, and let's work together. That's really why they're here. And also sometimes it can be, in my case, let's say it started out because, he thought, oh wow, she's going to make a great mother someday. So, but it can be for personal reasons like that as well, that they're just interested in that person because of what they're doing, say that they're creating something, and it's so completely different and dynamic, and they want to add to that with their presence because it will really fuel and ignite the consciousness to grow and do something different if you have a contact experience. So, there are certain inventors, and their story is, they encountered alien beings, right? Like Nikola Tesla, he encountered alien beings, and look at how much he created. And it's just astronomical because he was so, let's say, inspired by something completely new and fresh. And that's also something that they do. Sometimes they just come just to bring us inspiration, too.
Oh, or what about vacation reasons, just to get away from their home?
Well, that too, because they're curious. They really enjoy the nature here. We have such variety of wildlife, and they really enjoy that. And they really like to explore, like, all of the niche ecosystems and how all of the animals and plants and water systems and mountains and everything is connecting and working so well. We have such diversity of life on this planet. It's fascinating for them.
Create Disclosure. And I told you this the first time we spoke. It is very clear and precise, and it's in your face. How did that come about?
Essentially, it came one day. It was pretty recent, actually, and just this year. And I had a very clear vision that from my telepathic communication with the alien family that I have off planet, let's say my Zeta friend that took me in, he told me very clearly, telepathically, you need to do everything that you can to bring like-minded people together and have it under the banner of Create Disclosure, so that everyone knows what your intention is, they know what you're trying to do, they know where your direction is, and they know that you're working with us. So this is a way to let the world know that there are people who really want disclosure right here and now, and I'm representing their voice for the moment, but there's more than just me out there, and we're not only are we interested humans, but there are far more interested aliens supporting this movement as well. So we have the backing of the beings themselves. We have the truth on our side. We have the momentum and the force and the passion and inspiration pushing us forward. And basically, not only I got that message, but a lot of people in my life that I value and I cherish very much are helping me to build this movement as well, because they have been selected by these alien beings to push this project along, to help everybody out so that we can rise up and realize our full potential as individuals and as a human species. That's really the fundamental root of this movement. That's why we are doing what we're doing, and we're going to push it as far as we can, and there's no stopping it, basically.
Okay. Final question. Do you think humanity is ready as a whole?
For disclosure?
For disclosure, yes.
Absolutely. I think they're ready right now. And in fact, there are certain things that are showing up in the media that have never showed up before. Mentions of, little truthful things here and there. And that's kind of an indication showing everyone that, we're ready for the truth itself. And it might just start with political truths. It might just start with, global truths and things in the news, like being revealed for what they actually are and not some fabricated story. And that's kind of how it's starting to unravel. And people are taking this on themselves right now, and they're helping because they're, pushing the truth out into the open through social media, through their communications with their friends, their families, just people that they know, that they interact with. Everyone is embracing this already, and we already have started this a long time ago. It's just the momentum is going to continue to build and build before it reaches its final climax, for sure. People really want this deep down inside. That is very obvious, and it will continue to, the peeling of the onion layers will start coming off more and more as time moves forward.
All right, cool, man. I'm actually happy to be a small little part of that.
Every single person is a part of that, and every single person can contribute just by demanding the truth in every single circumstance of what's happening in your outside world.
All right, you hear that, folks? Start demanding it, think it, get that energy out there. It's going to happen.
Absolutely, it's going to happen. It's just the question of when will it all come to the accumulation point, which is way sooner than we realize.
All right, good. Chela, where can we find your videos talking about disclosure and your experiences and your social media and all that stuff so we can get in contact with you if someone has a question or something like that?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. You just look up my name, Chela Cooley, and you spell that Chela, Cooley, Cooley. So if you just look up Chela Cooley, I'll come right up on the YouTube, and also on Facebook. You can just look me up and add me, and first send me a message, and we can get into a conversation.
All right. And you guys, don't forget to check out Unexplained Possibilities Facebook page and Twitter. Also, don't forget to check out Create Disclosure's Twitter, which is Create Disclosure. And you have an Instagram too, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, you definitely want to check that out. I won't say names, but someone that you know wants me to join Instagram so I can follow it and just read some of the articles and things that are posted, which I have seen a couple, and they're very good, very informative. But I don't do Instagram, so you know who you are.
I'm sure that they do.
So with that said, guys, remember, there are things that go bump in the night. Remember to tell them hi. Bye, everybody.